Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another awesome interview. This time I'm going to be interviewing Komilla Sutton. Here she is.
Hello, namaste, Vic. So
Namaste.
nice to be here.
Thank you, thank you. So I'm thinking that introducing you is rather unnecessary because everybody knows you.
I'm sure that has been too kind.
No, I think you're one of the most active astrologers that there is. You're always doing something, some workshop, some program.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I do like to work hard, and I think since I've been doing astrology full time, it's my work. So, I am active. Yes.
Great.
I enjoy it.
Good. And what's your position at Baba?
I'm the chair of Baba and co-founder.
Great. And that stands for?
British Association of Vedic Astrology.
Awesome. And then if people want to find out more about that, there's a website?
Yeah, bava.org.
BAVA?
Yes, bava.org.
And what about your website? What's that?
My website is komilla.com. So KOMILLA.com.
Very nice. All right. So this is part of a series of interviews. So what I do is I basically ask different people more or less the same questions.
Okay.
So that we get different viewpoints, different opinions, different insights into the same sort of topics. And the topic I want to start out with is I want to ask you to explain, let's say, karma. What is karma actually?
Well, there's various ways of looking at karma. Karma is the action we do. So each one of us are born with karma from past lives. So generally, when we talk about karma, we think about the karma from past lives that we have inherited. That is really our own actions. But the main aspect of karma is that what are we doing now to reconcile with our old karma? So everything that we do today, any action we take now, is also karma. But it's not just work. Often karma gets confused by, oh, this is my work. But there's a much bigger picture to karma. And that is specifically that whatever we do today is in a way to pay off our past life debts, pay off our debts, what we may have done up to today, to reconcile with them, so that by the time we have finished with our time on earth, we are leaving this life lighter because we have finished all the karmas we were meant to do.
Nice, I like that. So if I'm just paying off my debts in the previous, am I creating any new debts?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, you got to try to have a light karmic footprint.
Nice.
So, you don't want to have a heavy footprint that by the time you have finished here, you have created so much more karma for yourself. So that is why in India specifically, they always say, oh, I'm very worried about my karma. That means what you do has a reaction. So therefore, we have to be really, most important is to be conscious of what we are doing today. Because then we have to pay back that, we have to deal with it. So it is possible that in this lifetime we create so much extra work for ourselves. So that is what you're trying to avoid.
Right. Now, how does karma relate with the concept of fate? Are they the same thing or are they different? What do you think?
Well, this is a question I'm asked all the time that, and specifically in connection to Vedic astrology, people tend to think Jyotisha is all about fate. But I think of it, karma is some kind of template that we are born with, which is our birth chart. But we do have certain restrictions, all of us. We could call it fate, we could call it destiny, we could call it karma. So for example, you're born in a certain place, you're born in a certain era, you have certain family, you've got certain things, however much freedom you want. You have certain restrictions. But so that you can call as karma or as fate. But the main thing, and that has also been my work, is that we have to understand that this is where we are today. But what are we going to do about it? That is also karma. That this is a sum total of whatever we are. So, say we are today in 2017 in this particular place. Then what are we going to do about it? So there is some aspect of fate, but there's also the free will of trying to work with it.
Fantastic. So it's like an ongoing fate, maybe you can say, right? There's a fate which is affecting you now, but that fate is created by your free will from the past, your own actions from the past. So what you're doing now in response to that is going to create a new future.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now let me ask you about where I want my fate to go. I want my fate to go towards happiness.
Yeah.
Right. So what is that? Everybody wants happiness, but few of us know what it really is. So what do you even think it is?
Well, that's a huge philosophical debate, And see, according to the Vedic knowledge, happiness is what is eternal. Anything that is impermanent will bring unhappiness to us. So if we attach ourselves to material things, to things that change, then we are setting ourselves up for unhappiness. Of course, we live in this material, very changing world. So a natural aspect of any individual is to get attracted to that, and to try to find happiness in this changing world is quite complex. But it is, to be happy with what you are. I think that is what happiness is to me. And that is how I have found happiness within myself, is not desiring, if only I could have this, if only I could be this. I think for me, that was something that Jyotish brought to me. It was like a special moment in my life that I thought, this is my chart, this is who I am, these are my circumstances. Why shouldn't I be just happy with where I am? And that actually opened up a whole area of life. So I think it's not blind acceptance of where you are, but understanding that some things change. If I think just because I have a brand new car or a fabulous house, I'm going to be happy, that doesn't make you happy. So it's something that we have to go within ourselves, to trust ourselves, to look at ourselves. And this takes a long time, and we are always dealing with worldly expectations, in the times we live. And that is where I feel that astrology has a huge say in it, to make us understand who we are, what we are.
In fact, I was going to ask you what role astrology would play in achieving that sort of happiness, but you answered it really well. And
that's what it is.
I found the same thing is true too, and I found that really everybody that I work with also, they have that same experience that, okay, this is my chart, this is me. Instead of fighting against it, let's see what we can do with this.
Yeah.
And
and I think there's nothing like a good or a bad chart. It's how you use it. You have a certain plate of colors in you, and you could make a fabulous masterpiece, or you could really mess it up. It needs some effort. When you study yoga and Vedic philosophy, it doesn't come easy to you. You have to work with it, and also to understand what you are. And you see why Jyotish is called light. It shows us the light to our who we are, and then we have to have the wisdom to understand that, and to see what it is. Sometimes people feel upset, or I have debilitated planets, or I have Mars Saturn conjunction or something like that. But we are who we are, despite what our chart is, or despite what our life is. So we have to try to find that special place within us.
Right. So maybe let's try to define good and bad then. because there's no good, there's no bad chart, but there are good and bad outcomes, right? Like a masterpiece with your painting would be good, and messing
Well,
up a
it's
painting would be
my
bad.
viewpoint. Somebody may think it's rubbish. It's my viewpoint. Like, especially when I started doing astrology, a lot of people felt I should get a proper job. But my viewpoint was that I was doing something very special, but another person's viewpoint may be different to what I do. But definitely there is every um, area there is good and bad, and there's positive and negative energy that is there, but we have to try to look at how to highlight the positive. In the Vedic knowledge, and same in astrology, we have malefics, benefics, we have devas and daityas, or gods and demons. So we have always these two extremes of conditions. And the idea is that you are nurturing your better quality within you. We may have weaknesses or bad qualities or negative things, and that is very much perception of what we think that is. But we are trying to calm the negativity down and improve our positiveness.
Great. So I have a related question too, which is, since there are negative experiences and difficulties in life, and there are bad things, so why is that? Why are there bad things in life? Why isn't everything just rosy and great?
I know, but I think it's all about a learning experience. If everything was perfect, then we would never appreciate the good in life, So we cannot expect to have just a rosy life. We have to have a experience of both negative and positive. In fact, my Guruji Ajit, he said to me, when I started studying with him, I was a lot younger, and he said, I must learn to celebrate the sorrows of life. And I was very upset with him because I had a bad transit and Saturn going over my moon, and I was not feeling at all requiring to celebrate that. But as I go older, I realized that even the difficult aspects is something that we have to learn from. And then slowly you learn to detach. That means how we react to the situation is different. It's not necessarily all perfect. And if it was all perfect, I don't think we'd be happy with it.
So the image that I'm getting now is like, we have to participate in creating our rosy future. So it's something that we create our reality. So we
That's right. That is the whole Vedic idea, that you can't blame anybody for what you do because you created it. So you have to pay for it. So therefore we have to, and don't get me wrong, I don't mean that we create something that is so unrealistic, but I think it is that we are conscious of every step we take because it has a consequence. So everybody be hurt of everything we do. And not just by physical actions, but by thinking and, the internal action as well. So once we realize how much impact our actions will have and take responsibility for it, I think on a philosophical level, that is the key factor. Whether we can do it as well as we talk it is a different matter.
Your answers are very clear. I like that. And so I'm inclined to ask you, how is it that it's so clear? You're doing something else besides Jyotish. Your involvement in Vedic culture is more than just Jyotish, right? What is it?
Yes, I've always been interested in yoga, and not just exercise yoga, but the whole yogic philosophy from a very young age. And I was lucky that when I met my astrology guru, who I call my guru, Dr. Ajit Sinha, he was a Sanskrit scholar, and he was not thinking of astrology in what is like a mundane way. So the way he taught me and the way he philosophized about everything, I'm very greatly influenced by that. So I always looked at astrology as a path of self-knowledge, rather than just as a predictive tool that will this happen or this will happen. So therefore that is been an influence, but also my yogic interest, and all over, all the Vedic philosophy I'm interested in.
That's great.
Yeah.
So let me ask you now a question about love.
Mm.
What's the relationship between love and happiness?
Mm. Well, I think, the love that we consider love in that is changeable. So if we think about somebody we'll meet, we'll fall in love, and then we are going to be happy, then that does lead to sorrow. So the Vedic philosophy says that you have to seek something, love something that is permanent or eternal. So it is difficult to, there are different levels of happiness. So if we think that we have conditional love and we'll be happy, is more difficult. Whereas if we can love somebody for who they are, then we are happy. People have very beautiful, lovely relationships because they are not trying to love an image, or they're loving the person for who they are, warts and all, exactly. So it's not always easy to find happiness with love. That is why so much is written about it, because it's always tough to find.
Hmm.
Mm. And being single, I'm maybe the wrong person to ask.
Are you single?
Yes, consciously single for the last many, many years. Yeah.
No, maybe you're the right person to ask.
Yeah. I'm happy being single. And I decided to be since 1990s. So it's like 20 years, to be alone. So.
And you live in England or in America?
I'm a global citizen. I
You're a
actually
global.
live in USA,
Yeah.
but I've had a very varied. I lived in UK for 24 years, and in 2008 I moved to USA because my family is all got American. They're all based here in California. So I had a green card, and so I moved here in 2008. My mom, my brother, my family lives here, so I live here now.
And right now you're in California, right?
That's right. They're talking to you from San
Because we
Francisco.
never know where you are. You're always moving around doing something else.
But I travel a lot. There's something in my chart that gives me an unsettled home life. So it used to bother me a lot, but once I looked at my chart, I thought, oh, that's what it is. So I just decided to accept what it is. So I travel. I'm never around for very long. So, my work is such now, I get invited to lecture. I go to India. My mom has a home in India, so I go there. I travel in India as well. So I'm making a plus point of what others may feel very stressed.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Now, let's talk a little bit more about that, because immediately when I say the word love, then you said maybe I'm not the best person to ask because I'm single. But what is love only romantic love?
No, it could be love for family, love for God, love for your country, love for things. So yes, you could have other types of love. Yes.
And I thought it was interesting. You were saying that you have to love something permanent, and then I was thinking, well, what can you love that's permanent? And then okay, so this is going to an abstract realm and a philosophical realm. But then you brought it to an interesting level where you say loving the person. There's a way. So you're hinting that there's a way to love a regular person in a way that's permanent by loving them for who they are.
Them for who they are, yes. So that could be permanent. That's what is the philosophy behind Vedic philosophy of dharam pati or dharam patni. When you marry somebody, and you're fulfilling your dharma, you're loving them for what they are, not feeling that you need to change them in any way. So there is the divine love, which is permanent. So they always say, if you don't get love from your mother or you don't get love from your father, you seek the higher love. But on a more physical level, when you're meeting or interacting with people, then you've got to um, somehow create a situation where you're not having expectation from the relationship that they're going to behave in a certain way towards you. Only then you will love them. Again, that is also needs a high philosophical base to be able to do that.
Mm. What kind of a Venus condition would you expect to see in a person that has a really good concept of love and really tends to love people for who they are and what they are, not conditionally?
Venus, I suppose, Venus in Digbala, fourth house, own sign. But Venus is also a Rajasic planet. So Venus is not always thinking about unconditional love. Venus in Pisces, I would say, because that is the purity of Venus. So we have to, Venus in Pisces would be very idealistic, very pure. And I think it's also not just keeping at the birth chart level. You have to see your chart and then see, how can I improve that quality? So Venus is always full of desire. So often Venus, even a strong Venus, will give you lots of desires that can create the unhappiness. So I would say also aspect on Venus, if it has a good aspect would be Jupiter's aspect. But people can, I would say Saturn, good strong Saturn is important, not Venus, because a strong Saturn is more detached and is able to love everything. When we see Saturn ruling the Vayu element, and Vayu is connected to the Anahata chakra. So you can think about Saturn's role in the detached love, where you can love somebody without condition. Not everybody will be able to do it. And Saturn is exalted in Venus' sign as well. So I think that in kind of talking about love, we have to first define what love we are looking at, but generally you need strength. Maybe you need a strong Lagna Lord. So what is your ascendant ruler doing? Is he strong enough to manage all your expectation? You see, what I find in a chart is that if your ascendant ruler is strong, then that is what is managing your planets. Or your Atma Karaka is strong, which is the, just for the people, highest degree planet. Or your moon is strong. Now, moon generally is not strong for everybody, because we are dealing with the transit moon all the time. We may have a great moon in our chart, but the moon is waxing, waning, connecting with planets. So for the strength of the moon, we have to have some regular practice that helps our mind to be strong. So I feel, especially in relationships and compatibility of any type, moon has a major role to play. And not just what you have, the moon at birth, but how you are managing your mind over the years. Because if the mind is unsettled, you are not really able to love clearly and properly. So the moon and Venus are all, they are both water planets as well. They rule the water element. So our emotional energy within us. So we just can't look at the Venus. You may have a strong Venus, but if your mind is unsettled, it doesn't let you settle down. So what I feel is that we have to consider not just our whatever we are born with, but how we are managing these energies through Sometimes something very simple of having a simple lifestyle, simple expectation, good food that we eat, but a normal, simple lifestyle. A lot of over ambition, over desire tends to mess with our, however good Venus or moon we have.
Huh.
So working with that is, that's what I feel.
I thought it was super interesting that you mentioned Saturn on this question. And also, I like what you're saying about the first Lord. So what I'm taking away from it is like strength is actually an important part of your ability to love, because if you're weak, then you're only needy. But what do you think is the role of Saturn specifically in this equation here?
You see, Saturn teaches us detachment, because Saturn is Saturn's main role is to make us face karma while we are living. So face our responsibilities, face what we have to deal with in this life, not to wait till we are dead and then the Yamraj is going to count what he's going to, what karma we have. So what I've noticed in the charts of people with strong Saturn, they have a strong sense of responsibility. And then over the years, Saturn teaches you detachment, whether it's through your natal chart or by transits, and he keeps on grinding away. You don't want to learn, he'll come back, retrograde back, he'll slowly teach that. So therefore, the strength of Saturn is very important to be able to deal with the difficult times of life. We are always able to take Venus pleasure or moon pleasure when times are going fine. But when the going gets tough, then we need Saturn. We need, our Lagna Lord to be strong. But Saturn, I've noticed that people with strong Saturn, they have a different attitude to their problems. So when there is some problem in relationships, or there's some problem, they don't run away at first issue. And of course, Saturn gets exalted in Venus's sign. Yeah. And then Saturn's best friend is Venus, Shukra. So there's some aspect of Saturn and Venus that we have to understand their relationship, in they support each other. According to the mythology, Brihaspati, Jupiter, did not give knowledge to Shani. It was Shukracharya, who's the Venus incarnation of the Guru. He's the one who taught Saturn lessons. So they have a very interesting relationship with each other. So I feel that when we are looking for Venus, we have also got to see the strong element of Saturn.
That's great. So I'll give you a hypothetical situation. First Lord is Saturn. It's in Taurus, the 5th house. And then Venus is in Virgo in the 9th house. What do you think about their attitude towards love?
Yeah. So I think Venus in Virgo is, is very analytical about love. It's not that they can't find love. Venus in Virgo can be super analytical. And I tend to think about, they can get involved in too much of detail. This is not happening, that is not happening. So they have to be careful that they don't muddy their water, because it's Venus in Virgo is in an earth sign. So they have to keep their purity intact. But sometimes by being over fussy, they can create problems for themselves. But of course, Saturn, Capricorn Lagna will be, with the Lagna Lord in Taurus, will be strong, it's a strong energy, and it is a practical energy because all the players are in earth signs. So earth sign means that you have to be realistic about what you are wanting and be grounded. So if you can achieve that, then it is easy to deal with it. But if you are not able to achieve that, then Venus in Virgo can be super hypercritical. and nothing is good enough. So that is where you have to be careful.
That's excellent. Thank you. All right, now let me see. How about I want to take this now to the question of, we talked about bad things and why there's bad things. We talked about good things. What is happiness? What is suffering? Why are there bad things? We talked about the connection of love and happiness. We talked about what love is. Let's talk about maybe what's the biggest, baddest thing, death. What's that and why is it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think death is bad. It's usually the people left behind are crying. Say, according to the philosophy, death is just the transformation. That means whatever karma we had to do here, we have finished with it. So, but there's a lot of fear of death, that people are afraid that they will die. And, so I think I don't necessarily study it in the chart that when somebody is going to die or anything, but maybe being born in India and having the Indian philosophy where life and death is both celebrated. We don't have that. I personally don't have any fear of death. And I think that it is a part of life. Two things that we are 100% sure of. One is that we are going to be born, and second is we are going to die. So therefore, we should try to have a understanding. Normally, what happens is, what they say is that you shouldn't die before your time. That means whatever you are meant to complete, you complete. And life is divided into 4 parts, 4 ashrams. And the last ashram is what is called ashram, where you are actually preparing to detach yourself. So the main aspect of human life is that we are attached to everything. So when death comes, we are scared of detachment. So we have to learn over the years. And as you get older, you see more of sorrow and unhappiness and death, really sorrow. Then you see some people do it quite well. They learn to detach and they are ready for it. But often, we are always wanting to be young, and we are scared of an event that is inevitable in our lives. So we should really be more thinking about not when death is going to happen, but what are we doing today, and how are we making today special for us? Because anything can happen tomorrow. So that is the real idea. So death happens to us all the time in nature. You see winter changes to summer, summer changes to autumn, day and night. So we are seeing this sort of change all the time, but somehow and this is the conditioning that people are afraid of death because it is got all the wrong connotations. But from a Vedic philosophy factor, they say that the baby comes in crying to this world because it says, oh my God, I got all this karma to deal with. But as you're leaving, then it's the people who don't understand the next dimension. So I think as I view it, and this is not something that I viewed it when I was younger, but it's evolved over the years, is that to try to do the best you can at now, so that you are not, by the time you've done everything and that you have to achieve, and therefore then by the time you are the time has come for you, then you don't have any regrets.
Great. I believe in that too. I feel that's my experience too, my gut feeling.
Yeah.
What if we can we give a planet like the moniker of being the death planet? Is there a planet that really represents death?
Well, Saturn, I think. Saturn is Karaka for the 8th house, for how long you're going to live. He represents all the aspects of life and death. So he he has the Karaka for 6th, 8th, and 12th house. So I would say that Saturn would be the planet that represents death. And in any kind of ending, he has some role to play.
And
So,
how about fear? What about a planet for fear?
Rahu. Rahu is fear. Saturn also can give some fear. Usually they act like each other. So there is a fear. Definitely when people are very afraid, then Rahu is involved in it somehow.
Okay, then last topic. Who am I? What is this? Who am I? Here's this chart. I'm born. Some astrologer is reading me my chart. They're telling me all these things about myself, but I can change these things about myself. Or apparently I was born before this and I had a different chart. So who am I, and how does astrology help me figure that out?
Well, astrology can't really help you figure out who you were in a previous lifetime, but it can figure out what is your template with what you're working with. And personally, I feel that in order to truly understand astrology, you should study it. I listen to people telling me about astrology, my astrology, but when I studied it, I truly understood. Because it's, and I'm sure that you agree with me as well.
Yeah.
But the fact is this, that when you're looking at your chart and you're seeing what are the issues, it's not that easy to change it. And if you could, everybody would change their lives immediately. It's an effort. Because if you think about all the structures that took thousands of years or many lifetimes to construct, then we are trying to remake them. It will take some time. So we are both the sum total of our chart, and we are not that, because we are something. The chart is only like an outfit. There is an internal you that you have to find. And this is why you may see sometimes some of the great philosophers and all, they say, don't follow astrology, because they feel that is only a covering. But I have my opinion is this, that we have to understand astrology to be able to go beyond it. We have to understand what is this karma that we brought in, what is the structure that we brought in order to change it. Obviously, understanding that it cannot just be done in one reading. You have to, as I told you, I like people who are really serious about the subject to study it, not necessarily to become an astrologer themselves, but to understand themselves. But otherwise, it is important to, work with an astrologer to understand yourself, and you're understanding not only the chart you brought into this life, but the times you live in. So, for example, like August 2017 is a very dramatic month. So we need to know, that the month exists. We've got the eclipse in USA. We've got Mars Rahu conjunction, Rahu going through Gandanta. A lot of things happening, but how are we going to react to that? That is more, not that it's happening and not that you should be scared about it, but to understand how to navigate these waters. And even the greatest spiritual people, they get affected by astrology because your sadhana or your meditation breaks, your good practices break. Because when there's turbulent astrological weather, then that is the time when you can, mess with your best intentions, let's say. So therefore, it is hugely important. And in the Vedic philosophy, it was given the highest importance. It was taught to all the sages. They had good knowledge of Jyotish. Unfortunately, now because of the sun sign astrology and things, people have started thinking, oh, it's only just entertainment. But it is not meant to be taken lightly. And it should be honored in its as the light that it brings us, because we can't see the path unless we know what is the obstacle there. It's all right to know I'm I'm not this body, I'm not this, this life, but you have to first understand what is there. So that is where astrology is hugely influenceable. And I think you have to study it yourself, but otherwise you have to have a good astrologer, somebody who understands who you respect and who you understand. I think there's nothing like a bad astrology. It's more that you have to get somebody who's interpreting these great information in the correct way and in a kind way. I think kindness is very important, because as you interpret, there's the malefic forces. They are not bad forces. They're just malefic forces that need to be understood. As I see them, malefic forces are very demanding on you. So like Saturn, for example, he'll say, stand up, sit down, don't do this, don't do that. So you've got to understand that. Whereas Jupiter will give you a softly nudge in the right direction. So we want the Jupiter nudge, but we may be learning more from Saturn. So we have to understand these forces that are there and how to work with them. And so therefore, if we are having a guide as an astrologer, we need to have somebody who's themselves have a strong practice and who can understand and be good at how to express it. And in that, I feel, Vic, what is important is that we have to understand the country we live in, the year we live in. So, for example, if I'm living now in USA and Europe, I've lived in, so I understand what is the need there. Sometimes when I go to India, I don't always understand what they want, because I haven't lived there since 1984. Even though I'm born there, but I may go to somewhere I don't understand what are the cultural things. So the culture, the times that you live in also, I may not understand what a 20-something wants, but I could try to learn. So there's a lot of other things that an astrologer needs to know in order to be a good astrologer.
I love this interview. This was a great interview. And I have to say, you must have a really good Saturn, because your logic is really clear, simple, no frills. And I like a lot of your answers are short and just to the point. That's my favorite kind of thing.
Thank you. I do have a good Saturn.
Great.
Thank you, Rick.
That hypothetical thing that I mentioned with Saturn in the 5th and Venus in the 9th for Capricorn, it was me.
Oh, okay. Good to know a bit of your chart.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. I hope people can listen to this interview a few times, really, because you give a lot of really accurate, deep, and well understood from your personal experience answers to these really important questions.
Thank you so much.
I look forward to meeting you in person.
Yes, I think we are meeting in Sedona.
That's our first stop, right?
Yes.
How about Calcutta? Will you be in Calcutta for that at the beginning of 2018?
I may or may not be there. I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
But I'm trying to be there. Yes.
Okay, great. Well, then definitely I'll see you in Sedona.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.